What's up and welcome back to Khali Yoga Center. I am here today with Lindsay.
Hey.
And we about to show y'all some high plank. All right, so Lindsay, get into high plank for us. Now, there's a couple key things about this pose that really set a strong foundation. The first is that Lindsay has her height extended out as far as it could be, turned horizontally. So that means she's got her heels pressed backwards. So she's making the back of her legs long by pressing her heels to the back of her mat. And then that gives length, and now up here at the front of the mat, the crown of Lindsay's head is pressed forward. So this gives Lindsay length throughout her whole body right now pushed back. And this length in her body is given from her core. So it's her core that's extending her legs back, and it's her core that's extending her spine and growing the crown of her head forward. So now we move into the arms, and you can see that Lindsay's arms have just a micro bend in her elbows. I'm not sure if you're even able to see it on the camera or not. And her elbows, Lindsay, lock your elbows all the way out, and now bring in some water. So just a micro bend in the elbows. Her elbows and shoulders are stacked directly on top of her wrists. And she's got her fingers spread out wide, really gripping the floor and pushing the ground away with the weight of her whole hand evenly distributed. And just like how Lindsay has that bit of water in her elbow, she's also got just a bit of water in her knees as well, so that neither her elbows or her knees are locked out. They both got just a slight bend, and her body is long, and she's pulling up and in just slightly with her core, and that keeps Lindsay's spine from dumping down towards the floor, or if she were to push her butt in the air and duck her head down. That keeps her really tracking her true north, her body in integrity and full expression. Oftentimes in the practice, this is a pose that we move through in the transition of Chaturanga Dandasana. So in high plank to low plank, often you'll move through this transition in your practice, and it's important to build into your practice the ability to keep your body lengthened as you lower. So now we're going to move into some common misalignments in high plank. And I think this is a great shape to talk about common misalignments, because if these misalignments are in your practice in high plank, you'll often find them in other parts of your practice. So the first misalignment we're going to talk about is probably the one that I see the most often, and that is belly sinking towards the floor, lower back caving in. Now this usually is because the core is totally disengaged, putting so much pressure on the low back. So I'm going to have Lindsay engage her core, pull her belly up and in, and you can see what that does is lengthen her body out and restore integrity. A second misalignment that we commonly see is the butt pushed way up into the air. And this is another way of disengagement of the core. And so now what's happening is all the tension is pressed into Lindsay's shoulders and her arms.
Yeah.
I can see her arms shaking right now. And if she flattens out, that brings the core back into play. And there we have it. Another common misalignment is the body is in a great line all the way up to the shoulders, and then the head turns down and looks either at the mat or at the feet. And this puts so much pressure in Lindsay's neck, in Lindsay's cervical spine. So from here, what Lindsay wants to do is press the crown of her head forward, and what that does is restore length to her entire body. And on the other side of that misalignment is the head tilted up, looking out. And sometimes I feel that this could come from like the anticipation of the up dog that's coming. And here what we want to do is keep the body extended, crown of the head pressed forward. You see how Lindsay's neck gets long, her heels are back, and her body is one long straight line, strengthened from center. And the final common misalignment we're going to show today is the joints locking out. So Lindsay, lock your elbows, lock your legs. This is restricted energy flow here. So to cue this, I would say, Lindsay, restore some water in your knees and elbows. And you see that brings her shoulders down. Now her whole body is in alignment. Joints are stacked and she has her length. Now we're going to move into a couple modifications that make this shape more accessible. The first one is for any hand or wrist injuries that you may have. You can, instead of hands being wide, you see Lindsay can make a fist and press her knuckles down into the mat. And when doing this, she still has her wrist stacked on top of her or underneath her elbows and her shoulders. And what she does is she takes her wrist out of extension right there, which a lot of times can provide a lot more comfort. The final modification for high plank is you can drop to your knees, and this can be out of ability, like if you do not have the ability to hold the shape with legs lifted the entire time. You can drop here as long as breath is full and your body is a yes for it. This is always accessible. And I recommend this can be something that you move in and out of throughout your practice. So Lindsay could come up and let's say she's in a high plank for a while and the breath gets short. She could drop to her knees and then she could come up again at a later part of practice, or she could rock with the modification for the entire practice. The practice is yours. So that is high plank. Lindsay, good job. You were in that high plank for a long time.
Yes, I was.
We had to take a few cuts to get this video together, but we made it. We made it.
Good work.
Go check out some of our other videos where we take deep dives into workshopping a bunch of other poses and use these videos to grow your practice. See you next time.